Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to the channel. This is my new channel, so please support us. Now let's start today's story on What If Harry Potter Beck Ain't the Guardian of Life and Death Before Hogwarts. But before we begin, comment 2 blue hearts, be sure to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share it with your friends. Also, watch till the end because this story is going to be amazing. And don't forget to check out our Patreon for exclusive Harry x Hermione uncensored spicy versions, link is in the description. Now, let's begin the story.
Chapter 1, The Bonding. The cupboard under the stairs was smaller than usual tonight. 4-year-old Harry Potter curled himself tighter into the threadbare blanket, trying to disappear into its folds as the floorboards above his head creaked with Uncle Vernon's heavy footsteps. His stomach growled, a reminder of another punishment meal skipped because he'd somehow made Dudley's birthday cake float when his cousin had tried to smash Harry's face into it. "Boy!" Uncle Vernon's voice boomed through the house. "Don't think you're getting breakfast after that freakish stunt." Harry didn't answer. He'd learned early that silence was safer than words in the Dursley household. Instead, he pressed his palm against the small cut on his cheek where Aunt Petunia's fingernail had caught him when she dragged him to the cupboard. It stung, but no worse than the hollow feeling spreading through his chest. Sometimes in the darkness, Harry imagined another life, one with parents who hadn't died in a car crash, one where someone, anyone, looked at him with something other than disgust. These fantasies were his only escape from number 4, Privet Drive. Tonight, however, something felt different. The air in his cupboard seemed to thrum with an energy he couldn't name. His fingertips tingled, and the cut on his cheek warmed strangely. When the house finally quieted and the last television show ended, Harry pressed his ear against the cupboard door. Nothing but Uncle Vernon's distant snoring. Carefully, he pushed against the door, finding it unlocked. Aunt Petunia must have forgotten in her fury. Freedom beckoned. Harry slipped from the cupboard, his small feet silent on the polished floor. The moonlight streaming through the kitchen window cast long shadows across the countertops where Dudley's half-eaten birthday cake still sat. Harry's stomach twisted with hunger, but he ignored it. Something stronger than hunger pulled at him tonight. The back door yielded to his touch, another oversight, and suddenly, Harry stood in the cool night air. He'd never been outside alone after dark before. The enormity of this rebellion made his heart race, yet his feet moved with purpose, carrying him away from Privet Drive toward the small wooded area at the edge of the neighborhood. "I shouldn't," he whispered to himself, but continued walking. The woods welcomed him with rustling leaves and mysterious shadows. Rather than frightening him, the darkness felt like an embrace. Harry wandered deeper, guided by an inexplicable certainty. The tingles in his fingers had spread through his entire body now, and the cut on his face no longer hurt. In a small clearing bathed in moonlight, Harry stopped. Something was here. Something was waiting. "Hello," he called softly, surprising himself with his boldness. The air shimmered before him, rippling like disturbed water. Harry gasped as 2 beings materialized, as if stepping through a curtain between worlds. On his right, perched on a low branch, sat the most beautiful bird he'd ever seen. Its feathers glowed with red and gold flames that shed light but didn't burn. Its intelligent eyes fixed on Harry with unmistakable recognition, as though it had been searching for him specifically. On his left, coiled around the base of an ancient oak tree, was a serpent larger than any Harry had ever imagined could exist. Its scales shimmered emerald and obsidian in the moonlight, and its massive head rose to Harry's eye level. Where the bird's presence felt warming, the serpent emanated a cooling power that balanced rather than opposed its counterpart. Harry should have been terrified. Instead, he felt something click into place, as if he'd found something he hadn't known he was missing. "What are you?" he whispered, reaching out a small hand. The bird trilled a melody that resonated deep within Harry's chest, filling empty spaces he hadn't known existed. To his astonishment, he understood the meaning behind the musical notes. "I am Solaris, child of fate. I have waited for you." The serpent's tongue flicked out, tasting the air around Harry. When it spoke, the words formed directly in Harry's mind, cool and ancient. "I am Nidhogg, guardian of secrets. You carry a fragment not your own, little wizard. Wizard? Harry echoed, his voice small in the enormous moment. I'm not, I'm just Harry. Just Harry. The phoenix, Solaris, fluttered from the branch to land gently on Harry's shoulder. Its warmth spread through him like sunlight after endless rain. You are more than you know, Solaris communicated. You are the bridge between worlds. Nidhogg slithered closer, its massive body moving with impossible grace. You stand at the crossroads of life and death, little one. We have been drawn to the fracture in your soul. Harry didn't understand most of what they said, but their presence filled him with a sense of rightness he'd never experienced before. Why me? He asked, voicing the question that haunted his short, difficult life. Why am I always different? Both creatures moved at once. Solaris pressed its feathered head against Harry's scar, a lightning bolt mark he'd been told came from the car crash that killed his parents. Simultaneously, Nidhogg's forked tongue flickered against the same spot. Pain and pleasure, fire and ice, life and death, opposites collided within Harry's small body. He cried out, not in fear but in recognition. Light erupted from his scar, a sickly green that writhed like something alive. It hovered in the air between them, shrieking with inhuman rage. The fragment, Nidhogg hissed. Corrupted soul magic. A tether to a broken existence, Solaris added, its mental voice solemn. Together, the creatures surrounded the green light, phoenix flame and basilisk venom neutralizing it until it dissolved into nothingness. Where the scar had burned on Harry's forehead, a curious sensation replaced the pain. It felt like cool water flowing over a burn, like sunshine after endless night. Harry swayed on his feet, suddenly exhausted. What's happening to me? He whispered. We are binding ourselves to you, young master, Solaris explained. You who were marked by death magic as an infant, now blessed by life magic as well. The balance must be maintained, Nidhogg continued. You will walk both paths, wielding powers of creation and destruction. The world spun around Harry as magic older than time itself rewrote his very essence. The phoenix's tears fell upon him while the basilisk's essence merged with his core. Where they should have opposed each other, they instead created perfect harmony within the small boy who had never known his own worth. When the magic settled, Harry found himself kneeling in the dirt, changed irrevocably. His vision swam with new clarity, he could see heat signatures in the darkness and detect the smallest movements in the underbrush. His hearing had sharpened to catch the wing beats of an owl 100 yards away. But the most profound change was inside, where two magical cores now orbited his own like twin stars around a central sun. I can feel you, Harry whispered, touching his chest in wonder. Both of you, inside me. We are one now, Solaris confirmed. I will teach you of healing, of light, of resurrection. And I will teach you protection, boundaries, and the power over that which ends, Nidhogg added. Together, we make you whole. Harry's small face lit with the first genuine smile it had worn in memory. Will you stay with me? Even when I go back to them? He couldn't bring himself to call the Dursleys family. Always, they answered in unison. But first, you must learn. Tonight begins your true life, Harry Potter. And so, beneath the watching moon, Harry's education commenced. Solaris taught him how to channel healing energy through his hands, demonstrating by closing the cut on his cheek with a warm golden light. Nidhogg showed him how to sense the life forces around him, to identify friend from foe through magical signatures. Hours passed like minutes as Harry absorbed knowledge no 4-year-old should possess, knowledge of ancient magics that predated wizard kind itself. As dawn threatened the eastern horizon, Harry reluctantly stood. I have to go back before they notice I'm gone. We go with you, Solaris assured him. Though we will remain unseen when necessary. Our physical forms can merge with yours, Nidhogg explained. Or manifest when needed. Your will guides us now. Harry nodded, focusing on the strange new connection he felt to the creatures. With a thought, Solaris transformed into pure light that sank beneath Harry's skin, settling over his heart. Nidhogg dissolved into shadow that twined around Harry's spine before disappearing. The weight of their presence remained, comforting rather than burdensome. As Harry walked back toward Privet Drive, each step felt surer than the last. For the first time in his short life, he wasn't alone. When Harry slipped back into his cupboard, curling once more beneath the threadbare blanket, he closed his eyes not in despair but in anticipation. Inside his mind, two voices, one warm as summer, one cool as stone, continued their teachings until sleep finally claimed him. The Dursleys noticed the change in Harry almost immediately, though they couldn't name what was different. His eyes seemed brighter, almost luminous in certain light. His movements had taken on a fluid grace that made Petunia nervous. Most disturbing of all, his punishments no longer seemed to affect him. When Vernon locked him in the cupboard without meals, Harry emerged looking inexplicably well-fed. When Petunia assigned backbreaking garden work under the summer sun, his skin remained unblemished by sunburn. When Dudley and his friends chased Harry in their favorite game of Harry hunting, they never seemed able to catch him anymore. 2 weeks after the night in the woods, Vernon cornered Harry in the kitchen. "What's going on with you, boy?" he demanded, his face purpling with suspicion. "You're up to something freakish, I can tell." Harry met his uncle's gaze steadily, something he'd never dared before. Inside, he felt Solaris's warmth urging restraint while Nidhogg's coolness prepared for defense. "I'm not doing anything, Uncle Vernon," Harry replied, his voice calm and measured in a way no 4-year-olds should be. Vernon grabbed Harry's thin arm, fingers digging in painfully. "Don't lie to me. You've been..." Before Vernon could finish, a flicker of green light shone behind Harry's pupils. Vernon gasped and released him as if burned, staggering back a step. "What was..." Vernon shook his head like a man trying to recall a fading dream. Go weed the garden," he finished lamely, turning away in confusion. "A small taste of my gifts," Nidhogg whispered in Harry's mind. "My gaze at its weakest merely confounds rather than kills." "We must be careful," Solaris cautioned. "You are too young to control our full powers. Small manifestations only, until you are ready." Harry nodded imperceptibly as he headed toward the garden. He understood the responsibility his new companions had entrusted him with. Over the past 2 weeks, they had explained more about what they were: Solaris, a phoenix of the highest order, creature of rebirth and healing; Nidhogg, an ancient basilisk, master of death and protection. Together, they represented the ultimate balance of magical forces, and their unprecedented bonding to Harry marked him as something previously unknown in wizarding history, a true master of life and death. As Harry knelt in the garden, his small hands working among the flowers, he practiced the meditation Solaris had taught him. His consciousness expanded outward, sensing the life essence in every plant, insect, and passing bird. Under Nidhogg's tutelage, he could feel where that life ebbed, where decay returned matter to the earth. Harry touched a dying rosebush, channeling a thread of Solaris's magic through his fingertips. The wilting plant straightened, its brown leaves greening, buds swelling and unfurling into magnificent blooms. Aunt Petunia would be surprised, she'd been complaining about this bush all spring. "Balance, young master," Nidhogg reminded him. "What gives life must take from somewhere." Harry nodded, understanding the lesson. He directed his attention to the invasive weeds choking a section of the garden, channeling Nidhogg's energy to accelerate their natural decomposition. The weeds blackened and crumbled to enriching soil in seconds. Life and death, creation and destruction, in perfect harmony. "Boy!" Aunt Petunia's shrill voice interrupted his work. "Come inside and start lunch." Harry rose, brushing dirt from his oversized hand-me-downs. "Yes, Aunt Petunia." In the kitchen, he stood on a stool to reach the counter, carefully assembling sandwiches for his relatives. Dudley waddled in, his pudgy face twisted in its perpetual scowl when it turned toward Harry. "Mum says you're being weird," Dudley announced, reaching for a sandwich before Harry had finished making it. "Dad says you might need to see a doctor because you're too strange." Harry continued his task, seemingly unperturbed. I feel fine. Dudley leaned closer, his mean little eyes narrowed. I saw you in the garden. The plants moved when you touched them. I'm telling Dad. For a moment, alarm flashed through Harry. The Dursleys' fear of anything abnormal was well established, and Vernon's punishments could be severe. But beneath that momentary concern, a new confidence steadied him. Let me assist, Solaris offered. Harry felt warmth spread through his chest as Solaris shared a small portion of Phoenix magic. When he spoke, his voice carried a subtle harmonic quality. You didn't see anything unusual, Dudley. Plants always move a little in the breeze. Dudley's eyes glazed slightly. Yeah, the breeze. Phoenix song carries persuasion when focused properly, Solaris explained as Dudley wandered away, the incident already fading from his mind. Another tool you must use wisely. Harry nodded, continuing his chores with new purpose. Each day brought fresh lessons from his companions, and with them, growing control over abilities no child should possess. That night, as the Dursleys slept, Harry sat cross-legged in his cupboard, Solaris and Nidhogg manifested in miniature forms before him. The Phoenix, now the size of a snowy owl, perched on his bent knee while the basilisk, reduced to the dimensions of a garden snake, coiled nearby. I want to know more about what happened to me, Harry whispered. About my parents. About why I was left with people who hate me. Solaris and Nidhogg exchanged what could only be described as a significant look. Your history is complicated, young master, Nidhogg began. You were indeed orphaned, but not in the manner you've been told. Your parents were magical, Solaris continued. Powerful witch and wizard who defied a great darkness. Over the next hours, Harry learned the truth of his heritage, of James and Lily Potter, of Voldemort and the killing curse, of the scar that had contained a fragment of the darkest soul magic until Solaris and Nidhogg had neutralized it. He learned of Hogwarts school and the wizarding world that awaited him, of Dumbledore who had placed him with the Dursleys for protection based on his mother's sacrifice. Harry absorbed every word, his young face growing more solemn with each revelation. So there's a whole world out there where I belong, he finally asked. Yes, Solaris confirmed. But our bonding has changed your destiny, young master. You are now more than wizard, you are a bridge between primal forces. The wizarding world will not know what to make of you, Nidhogg added. Our bonding has never occurred before, a human child hosting both Phoenix and Basilisk magic. Harry considered this, his mind processing concepts far beyond his years thanks to the accelerated wisdom his companions shared with him. What does it mean to be master of life and death? It means balance, they answered in unison. You can heal what others cannot, Solaris explained. And end what should not continue, Nidhogg finished. Together, these powers make you neither light nor dark, but something necessary to both, Solaris continued. You will understand more as you grow. Harry nodded, accepting this extraordinary responsibility with a child's simple trust. Will I still go to Hogwarts when I'm older? Yes, Nidhogg confirmed. Your education must include wizard magic as well. But until then, we have much to teach you. And teach him they did. As weeks turned to months, and months to years, Harry grew under the guidance of creatures older than human civilization. By day, he maintained the appearance of normalcy around the Dursleys, though their treatment of him gradually changed. Fear replaced cruelty as unexplainable things continued happening around Harry, Vernon's belt buckle turning molten when he threatened punishment, Dudley's gang finding themselves unable to approach Harry, garden snakes appearing whenever Petunia screeched orders at him. By night, in the privacy of his cupboard, which now seemed inexplicably larger inside than its external dimensions suggested, Harry studied ancient magic that few wizards had ever glimpsed. On Harry's 5th birthday, unacknowledged by the Dursleys as always, Solaris and Nidhogg took him deep into the woods for a special lesson. I want to try calling fire today, Harry said confidently, now comfortable with his abilities. Fire is volatile, young master, Solaris cautioned. It requires perfect balance. But you are ready to attempt it, Nidhogg agreed. Focus on the duality, destruction and renewal. Harry closed his eyes, centering himself in the connection between his companions. He extended his small hand, palm upward, and concentrated on the opposing forces within him. Nothing happened. Harry frowned, trying again with greater intensity. Still nothing. Why isn't it working? He asked, frustration evident in his voice. You are forcing rather than allowing, Solaris explained gently. Magic flows, it is not seized. Remember what we taught you about intent versus will, Nidhogg added. Intent guides, will forces. Harry took a deep breath, refocusing. This time, he imagined the heat of Solaris's flames and the precision of Nidhogg's power working in concert rather than competing. He visualized fire as transformation rather than simply destruction, a bridge between states of being. A small blue flame bloomed above his palm, dancing with unusual stability for such a controlled manifestation. It cast his face in ethereal light, reflecting in his bright green eyes. I did it, he whispered, amazed despite all he had already accomplished. Well done, young master, his companions praised. As Harry manipulated the flame, making it dance and change colors, a rustle in the underbrush startled him. The flame extinguished instantly as Harry turned toward the sound. A woman stood at the edge of the clearing, her expression frozen in shock. She wore strange robes of emerald green, and her severe bun couldn't quite tame all of her dark hair. Most striking was the wand clutched in her hand, pointed directly at Harry. A witch, Nidhogg hissed in Harry's mind. Ministry detection, likely. Your magic registered on their sensors. Before Harry could respond, the woman spoke, her Scottish accent thick with emotion. Harry Potter, she whispered. What in Merlin's name are you doing out here? And what was that magic? Harry tensed, feeling Nidhogg's protective instincts surge. The basilisk wanted to manifest, to shield him from this potential threat, but Harry calmed his companion with a thought. Who are you? He asked steadily. The woman lowered her wand slightly, though her expression remained stunned. I am Professor Minerva McGonagall, Deputy Headmistress of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. I was alerted to underage magic in this area, powerful enough to bypass normal restrictions. Her eyes narrowed. That should be impossible for a child your age. Harry considered his options quickly. His companions had warned him that his abilities would eventually draw attention from the wizarding world. Perhaps it was time to make a first alliance. I know about Hogwarts, he said carefully. And about magic. About what happened to my parents. McGonagall's eyes widened further. That's not possible. Albus assured us you were being raised without knowledge of our world. Her gaze sharpened. Who has been teaching you, Mr. Potter? That was not accidental magic I witnessed. Harry straightened his thin shoulders. Guidance? He asked his companions silently. Limited truth, Solaris suggested. She is trustworthy but loyal to Dumbledore. Reveal our existence if necessary, but not our full bonding, Nidhogg added. Let her believe we are merely familiars. I have friends, Harry said aloud, gesturing to the air beside him. Would you like to meet them? Before McGonagall could answer, Harry allowed Solaris to manifest, the phoenix appearing in a burst of golden flame that caused the professor to gasp and stumble backward. Nidhogg remained hidden for now, a basilisk would cause far more alarm. A phoenix, McGonagall breathed, her composure completely shattered. Bonded to a 5-year-old child. Impossible. His name is Solaris, Harry explained calmly. He found me last year. He's been teaching me. McGonagall's face cycled through shock, disbelief, and finally something approaching wonder. Mr. Potter, do you understand how extraordinary this is? Phoenix bonding is exceedingly rare, even among adult wizards. And the magic you were performing. She shook her head. We must speak with Professor Dumbledore immediately. Harry tensed. I don't want to leave my aunt and uncle's house yet, he said, surprising himself with the realization that it was true. Despite their treatment, the Dursleys' home provided a stable base for his magical education, away from wizarding scrutiny. Dumbledore put me there for protection, didn't he? McGonagall's surprise grew. You know about the blood wards? Harry nodded, drawing on knowledge Solaris had shared. My mother's sacrifice. It keeps me safe from Voldemort's followers. McGonagall flinched at the name but recovered quickly. You speak of things no child should know, Mr. Potter. She sighed, her expression softening. But perhaps Albus should come to you, rather than the reverse. Will you be here tomorrow evening? Harry considered, then nodded. Same time. But please, don't tell anyone else about Solaris yet. Or about what you saw me do. The professor studied him with new eyes, not as a child needing protection, but as someone deserving consideration. I will speak only to Albus, you have my word. But Mr. Potter, be careful with whatever magic you're practicing. Some powers are not meant for the young. As McGonagall disapparated with a crack, Nidhogg materialized from Harry's shadow. The pieces begin to move, the basilisk observed. Earlier than we anticipated. But not necessarily to our disadvantage, Solaris countered. The Old One, Dumbledore, would have discovered us eventually. Better on our terms. Harry watched the spot where the witch had vanished, feeling the weight of his unusual childhood pressing upon him. Will Dumbledore try to separate us? He asked, voicing his deepest fear. He could not if he tried, Nidhogg assured him. Our bonding is soul deep, beyond the magic of wizards to sever. But he will likely attempt to guide your development more directly now, Solaris warned. Dumbledore plays a long game with the fate of many in his hands. Harry nodded, resolute beyond his years. Then we'll be ready for him. Albus Dumbledore had lived over a century. He had defeated Dark Lords, discovered 12 uses of dragon's blood, and mentored generations of witches and wizards. Very little surprised him anymore. The sight of 5-year-old Harry Potter sitting calmly in a forest clearing, a phoenix perched on his shoulder and controlled wandless magic dancing at his fingertips, was one of those rare exceptions. Good evening, Harry, Dumbledore said, his voice betraying none of the shock Minerva had described from her encounter. Professor McGonagall tells me you've made a rather extraordinary friend. Harry studied the old wizard carefully, noting the powerful magical aura his enhanced senses could now perceive. Solaris remained visible on his shoulder, while Nidhogg stayed hidden within Harry's shadow, both feeding him impressions and guidance. Hello, Professor Dumbledore, Harry replied with careful politeness. Thank you for coming instead of making me leave the Dursleys. Dumbledore's bushy eyebrows rose slightly at Harry's measured tone. You're quite welcome. May I? He gestured to a fallen log across from where Harry sat cross-legged on the forest floor. Harry nodded, and the headmaster settled himself, his bright purple robes pooling around him incongruously against the earthy backdrop. I confess myself astonished, Harry, Dumbledore began, his blue eyes twinkling but sharp with assessment. A phoenix companion is a rare blessing even among the most powerful adult wizards. May I ask how you came to meet this magnificent creature? Selective truth, Solaris advised. He will detect outright lies. Solaris found me when I needed him most, Harry said simply. He's been teaching me about magic and about my parents. Dumbledore's gaze intensified. Teaching you? How extraordinary. And what has Solaris taught you about your parents? That they were murdered by Voldemort. That my mother died to protect me, and her sacrifice created a protection. Harry met Dumbledore's eyes steadily. That you placed me with the Dursleys to maintain that protection through my mother's blood. Dumbledore steepled his fingers, his expression grave. You speak with remarkable clarity for one so young, Harry. I must wonder what other knowledge your companion has shared with you. Harry felt Nidhogg's cold amusement at the old wizard's careful probing. Enough to understand that there are people who would hurt me if they could. That I need to learn to protect myself. And the magic Minerva witnessed? Wandless fire manipulation is beyond most adult wizards. Harry allowed a small flame to dance above his palm, knowing it would be pointless to deny his abilities now. Solaris helps me focus my magic. It comes, naturally to me. Dumbledore watched the flame with an unreadable expression. Harry, while I am impressed with your abilities, I must express concern. Magic, especially powerful magic, requires proper training and understanding. There are reasons we typically begin magical education at 11. He fears what he doesn't understand, Nidhogg observed. All humans do. Yet he respects power, Solaris countered. Show him control, not just ability. Harry extinguished the flame with a thought and folded his hands in his lap. I'm being careful, Professor. I understand that magic has consequences. Indeed it does. Dumbledore leaned forward slightly. Harry, I must ask, have you encountered any other, unusual creatures besides your phoenix friend? Harry felt Nidhogg tense within his shadow. The headmaster was fishing, perhaps sensing the dual nature of Harry's magical signature. No, sir, Harry replied, the lie coming easily with Nidhogg's essence concealing itself deeper within his core. Just Solaris. Dumbledore studied him for a long moment, then sighed. Harry, I placed you with your relatives hoping to give you a normal childhood, free from the burdens of your fame and history until you were ready. I see now that destiny had other plans for you. I'm still having a childhood, Professor, Harry said, a hint of a smile touching his lips. Just not a normal one. Something like sadness flickered across Dumbledore's face. No, I suppose not. He straightened. I won't remove you from your aunt and uncle's care, as the blood protection remains important. However, I would like to arrange for someone to visit periodically, to provide some guidance in your magical education. A watcher as much as a teacher, Nidhogg warned. But potentially useful nonetheless, Solaris added. Wizard magic differs from our own. Harry nodded slowly. I'd like that, Professor. Excellent. Perhaps Remus Lupin, he was a friend of your father's, and a gifted teacher. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. I believe your unusual companion will sense that Remus has his own unique nature and hopefully find him acceptable. Solaris trilled softly, the sound neither confirming nor denying Dumbledore's assumption. Before I leave you this evening, Harry, might I examine your scar? Dumbledore asked, his tone casual though his intent was clearly significant. Harry tensed imperceptibly. The scar had faded to almost nothing after Solaris and Nidhogg had removed Voldemort's soul fragment. Allow it, his companions agreed. He will discover the change eventually. Harry nodded, pushing back his unruly hair to reveal his forehead. Dumbledore approached slowly, waving his wand in intricate patterns over the area where the lightning bolt had once been prominent. The headmaster's expression shifted from curiosity to shock to something unreadable in quick succession. Fascinating, he murmured. The magical signature has changed entirely. How do you feel, Harry? Any pains or unusual dreams? No, sir. I feel fine. Better than before, actually. Dumbledore nodded slowly, returning to his seat. Magic continues to surprise even those of us who have studied it for a century, it seems. He fixed Harry with a penetrating look. Harry, I must ask you to be cautious. Your abilities are extraordinary, but with great power comes great responsibility, Harry finished. Solaris has taught me that too. Has he indeed? Dumbledore smiled faintly. Wise beyond your years, Harry Potter. We shall speak again soon. As Dumbledore disappeared with a soft pop, Harry exhaled slowly. He knows more than he revealed, Nidhogg observed, emerging partially from Harry's shadow now that they were alone. And suspects even more, Solaris added. But he will proceed cautiously. You intrigue him. Harry nodded, processing the encounter. At least he's letting me stay with the Dursleys. For now, Nidhogg cautioned. But we must accelerate your training. Events are in motion now that cannot be stopped. Harry rose, stretching his small limbs. Then let's not waste time. Show me how to merge our magics again, I almost had it yesterday. As darkness fell over little Whinging, a child with ancient magic flowing through his veins practiced arts long forgotten by wizardkind, preparing for a destiny far different from the one Albus Dumbledore had once envisioned for the boy who lived. Remus Lupin arrived at Privet Drive 3 days later, his shabby appearance drawing disapproving stares from neighbors as he approached number 4. Harry, warned by Solaris of the werewolf's impending visit, waited on the front step, having told the Dursleys he was weeding the garden. Harry? Lupin stopped a few feet away, emotion making his voice rough. You look so much like James, except for my mother's eyes, Harry finished with a smile. That's what Solaris showed me in memories. Lupin blinked in surprise. Solaris? Ah, your Phoenix companion. Dumbledore mentioned. He shook his head in wonder. I confess I thought he might be exaggerating. Harry glanced around to ensure no neighbors were watching, then nodded slightly. Solaris materialized in a flash of flame, perching delicately on Harry's shoulder. The Phoenix studied Lupin intently before trilling a soft greeting. Merlin's beard, Lupin whispered, awestruck. Harry, do you understand how extraordinary this is? Professor Dumbledore said something similar, Harry replied, rising to his feet. Would you like to go for a walk? The Dursleys don't know about magic, and they don't like anything unusual. Lupin's expression darkened momentarily at the implications of Harry's words, but he nodded. Of course. As they walked toward the nearby park, Harry studied the man covertly. Nidhogg's senses detected the wolf essence beneath Lupin's human exterior, dormant now with the full moon weeks away, but present nonetheless. Professor Dumbledore says you're going to teach me about magic, Harry began. Lupin smiled faintly. Just Remus, please. And yes, though from what Dumbledore tells me, you've already had quite an education. They settled on a bench in the deserted park, Solaris vanishing from sight though his presence remained warm in Harry's consciousness. Remus, Harry said carefully, before we start, can I ask you something about my parents? Lupin's amber eyes softened. Anything, Harry. Were they good people? Really good, I mean. Not just brave or powerful. The question seemed to catch Lupin off guard. He was silent for a moment, considering his answer with care. Your father, James, wasn't perfect. He could be arrogant in his youth, even cruel to those he disliked. Lupin's honesty surprised Harry. But he grew into a man of tremendous loyalty and courage. And your mother, Lily, was fierce in her convictions, brilliant at charms, and had the kindest heart of anyone I've known. They were good people who sometimes made mistakes, Harry, like all of us. Harry nodded, appreciating the nuanced truth. Thank you for not pretending they were saints. You're welcome. Lupin studied him curiously. That's an unusual first question from a 5-year-old. Harry shrugged. I need to understand where I come from if I'm going to understand where I'm going. Lupin's eyebrows rose. Dumbledore mentioned you spoke unlike a typical child, but I see he wasn't exaggerating that either. He leaned back, considering Harry with new eyes. Harry, what exactly has your Phoenix taught you? Truth, but measured, Solaris advised. The wolf can be trusted but will report to Dumbledore. His loyalty to your father may outweigh that to the headmaster, Nidhogg added. Test the waters. Solaris has shared memories of magical history, Harry began. And help me understand and control my magic. I can do some things without a wand. To demonstrate, Harry levitated a small stone from the ground, making it orbit their bench before setting it gently back in place. Lupin watched with a mixture of amazement and concern. That's beyond what most adult wizards can accomplish wandlessly, he said quietly. May I ask, what else can you do? Harry considered how much to reveal. I can create and control fire. I can sense magic around me. I can heal small injuries. Lupin nodded slowly, processing this information. Harry, while these abilities are remarkable, there are fundamentals of wizard magic that require structured teaching, theory, wand movements, incantations. That's why Dumbledore sent you, Harry acknowledged. To teach me the things Solaris can't. Precisely. Lupin reached into his worn jacket and removed a thin book. We'll start with magical theory, understanding the foundations of spellwork. Even with your natural abilities, this knowledge will help you channel your power more effectively. For the next 2 hours, Lupin introduced Harry to concepts of magical energy manipulation, the history of spell creation, and the fundamentals of transfiguration theory. Despite already possessing practical abilities beyond his years, Harry absorbed the academic knowledge eagerly, recognizing its value in bridging his primal magic with wizarding techniques. As their lesson concluded, Lupin hesitated before asking, Harry, how are things with your relatives? Do they treat you well? Harry's expression remained neutral. They feed me and give me shelter. We understand each other. Lupin frowned, clearly reading between the lines. That's not what I asked. It's the answer I can give, Harry replied simply. The blood protection is important. Solaris helps with the rest. He wishes to help you, Solaris observed. His wolf nature makes him protective of cubs. Yet he did not seek you out before now, Nidhogg countered. His guilt shapes his current concern. Harry added, softening his tone, I'm okay, Remus. Really? Things were harder before Solaris found me, but now. He smiled genuinely. Now I have purpose. And soon I'll have you teaching me too. Lupin seemed torn between pressing the issue and respecting Harry's boundaries. Finally, he nodded, though concern lingered in his eyes. I'll return in 3 days for our next lesson. Meanwhile, practice the meditation technique I showed you. It will help with focus. As they walked back toward Privet Drive, Lupin asked casually, Harry, has your scar bothered you at all? Headaches, strange dreams. Harry touched his forehead, where the lightning bolt was now barely visible. No. Should it? No, Lupin assured him quickly. Just checking. Magical scars can sometimes have unusual properties. He knows something about your scar, Nidhogg noted. Dumbledore must have shared concerns. Harry nodded thoughtfully. Remus, do you know why Voldemort wanted to kill me as a baby? It seems strange that a powerful dark wizard would target an infant. Lupin stiffened slightly at the direct question. That's complicated, Harry. And perhaps a discussion for when you're a bit older. I've been marked by death magic since I was 1 year old, Harry said quietly. I think that makes me old enough to know why. The werewolf stopped walking, studying Harry with newfound intensity. Marked by death magic? Where did you hear that terminology? Harry realized he'd revealed more than intended. It's just something I sensed. About my scar. Lupin's eyes narrowed slightly, but he didn't press further. There was a prophecy, Harry. That's all I know. Dumbledore never shared its contents with me or most of the Order. But it led Voldemort to target your family specifically. A prophecy, Harry repeated, filing away this crucial information. Thank you for telling me the truth. As they parted at the edge of the Dursley property, Lupin squeezed Harry's shoulder. You're an extraordinary child, Harry Potter. Your parents would be proud, and perhaps a little frightened by how quickly you're growing up. Harry smiled, a child's expression briefly replacing his usual solemnity. Will you tell me more about them next time? Every story I can remember, Lupin promised. When the werewolf had gone, Harry retreated to the back garden, his mind racing with new information. Both Solaris and Nidhogg materialized once they were safely hidden from view. A prophecy, Nidhogg hissed thoughtfully. Divination magic is unpredictable but powerful. Our bonding may have altered its path, Solaris added. Prophecies account for possibilities, not certainties. Harry nodded, processing this revelation. We need to find out what it said. If Voldemort targeted my parents because of it, it must be important. The Department of Mysteries in the Ministry of Magic House's prophecy records, Nidhogg provided. But access is restricted to those named within them. Which likely includes you, Solaris concluded. Though retrieving it would be difficult at your current age and abilities. Harry's expression grew determined. Then we keep learning. We get stronger. And when the time comes, we'll be ready to face whatever this prophecy says. As you wish, young master, his companions agreed. The years passed with increasing momentum. Under Remus Lupin's fortnightly tutelage, Harry mastered theoretical aspects of wizarding magic far beyond his years. The werewolf reported Harry's progress to Dumbledore, though Harry suspected he sometimes downplayed certain abilities at Harry's request. Meanwhile, Solaris and Nidhogg continued Harry's education in ancient magics unknown to most wizardkind. By age 7, Harry could wandlessly perform most first through third-year Hogwarts spells, heal moderate injuries with Phoenix magic, and sense magical signatures from considerable distances. His connection to both life and death magic deepened, allowing him to accelerate plant growth or decay objects with mere thoughts. The Dursleys maintained an uneasy truce with their unusual charge, fear and self-preservation overriding their natural inclination toward cruelty. Harry kept his abilities subtle around them, but occasional incidents ensured they gave him the space and basic necessities he required. On Harry's 8th birthday, ignored as always by his relatives, Lupin arrived for their scheduled lesson carrying a small, wrapped package. "Happy birthday, Harry," he said with a warm smile as they settled in their usual spot in the park. After 3 years of teaching the boy, Lupin had grown increasingly fond of James and Lily's remarkable son, though he remained bewildered by Harry's accelerated development. Harry unwrapped the gift carefully to reveal a handsome leather journal. "It's beautiful," he said, running his fingers over the cover. "It was your mother's," Lupin explained. "Not her diary, just a notebook where she sketched spell ideas and research notes. I thought you might find it interesting, given your theoretical studies." Harry's eyes widened. He'd accumulated few personal possessions over the years, and nothing at all from his parents. "Thank you," he said simply, though the depth of his gratitude was evident. As Harry flipped through the pages, admiring his mother's neat handwriting and clever annotations, Lupin cleared his throat. "I've been meaning to ask, Harry, have you given any thought to Hogwarts? It's only 3 years away now." Harry looked up from the journal. "I think about it often," he admitted. "It will be complicated." Lupin nodded in understanding. Over the years, he'd come to accept that there was more to Harry's abilities than just a Phoenix companion, though Harry had never revealed Nidhogg's existence to him. The boy's dual-natured magic occasionally manifested in ways that left Lupin puzzled but impressed. "Dumbledore believes your unusual magical development might make traditional classroom instruction challenging," Lupin continued. "He's considering additional private tutoring alongside regular classes." "He tests the waters," Nidhogg observed. "Dumbledore seeks to separate you from the general student population. Or to provide appropriate education for your unique abilities," Solaris countered. "Not all his motivations are suspect." "I want the normal Hogwarts experience," Harry said firmly. "As normal as possible, anyway. I can control my abilities well enough not to stand out unnecessarily." Lupin smiled faintly. "Harry, you could perform only first-year spells and still stand out. You're the boy who lived, people will notice you regardless." Harry sighed, acknowledging this truth. "Then I'll deal with that when it comes. But I don't want special treatment, Remus. I want friends my own age, regular classes, Quidditch, all the things you've told me about." "I understand." Lupin hesitated, then added, "There's something else I should mention. Dumbledore has appointed a new defense against the dark arts professor for the coming year, Quirinus Quirrell. He's requested permission to study abroad for a year first, researching vampires in Albania." "Albania," Nidhogg hissed, suddenly alert. "The forest remnants. The disembodied one seeks vessels there. Harry kept his expression neutral despite the internal warning. That's interesting. Will he be a good teacher, do you think? Lupin shrugged. Quirrell was a Ravenclaw, brilliant but timid. Teaching defense seems an odd choice for him, but Dumbledore must have his reasons. Harry nodded, mentally filing away this information for later discussion with his companions. Shall we continue with conjuration theory today? I've been practicing the principles you explained last time. As their lesson proceeded, Harry maintained his focus, but part of his mind remained occupied with this new development. After Lupin departed, promising to return in 2 weeks, Harry retreated to the small stand of trees behind the Dursleys' garden shed, his private sanctuary for conversations with his companions. Both creatures materialized to their full size, Nidhogg's massive coils wrapping protectively around the clearing while Solaris perched on a branch above. Explain about Albania, Harry requested, sitting cross-legged on the ground. After Voldemort's body was destroyed, his fractured soul fled, Nidhogg began. Spirits seek familiar places in their confusion. The Albanian forests were once his haven during his first exile from Britain. We believe his wraith form has remained there, too weak to act but conscious, Solaris continued. Seeking a host to possess, preferably a magical one. And now Quirrell is going there deliberately, Harry concluded, frowning. Is it coincidence? There are few true coincidences in matters of such power, Nidhogg replied. Either Quirrell is being manipulated, or he seeks the Dark Lord intentionally. Either way, this confirms that Voldemort's spirit survived that night, Solaris added gravely. As we suspected when we removed his soul fragment from your scar. Harry considered this information carefully. He'll come back, then. Maybe through Quirrell, maybe another way, but he'll try to return to power. Yes, his companions confirmed solemnly. Then we need to prepare. Harry's young face set with determination that looked out of place on an 8-year-old. 3 years until Hogwarts. 3 years to master enough of our combined powers to face whatever comes. You progress quickly, young master, Nidhogg acknowledged. But facing a fully restored Dark Lord would challenge even our combined strength. There is much yet to learn, Solaris agreed. Particularly in balancing our opposing magics within you. Harry nodded, rising to his feet. Then let's continue. Show me again how to channel both your essences simultaneously. For the rest of that summer day, in the hidden corner of a mundane suburban garden, a child practiced ancient magic that blended life and death in harmonious balance, a combination unseen in wizarding history. As golden phoenix flames danced with emerald basilisk energy around his small form, Harry Potter prepared for a destiny far different from the one Albus Dumbledore had planned for him all those years ago. The phoenix and the basilisk had changed everything when they bonded with the boy at age 4. And the wizarding world remained blissfully unaware of the transformation of their savior into something unprecedented, a true master of life and death. Chapter 2, Shadows and Light. The Hogwarts acceptance letter arrived precisely on Harry's 11th birthday, delivered not by Owl but by Minerva McGonagall herself. She appeared with a sharp crack of apparition at the edge of the small forest where Harry practiced his magic each morning, just as the sun crested the horizon. Mr. Potter, she greeted, her Scottish brogue carrying across the clearing. I trust you've been expecting this. Harry lowered his hands, extinguishing the dual-colored flames he'd been weaving between his fingers. After 7 years of bonding with Solaris and Nidhogg, his control over their combined magic had grown extraordinary. The small exercise, phoenix fire interlaced with basilisk energy, had become his morning meditation. Professor McGonagall, he acknowledged with a slight bow. It's good to see you again. Her eyes widened slightly at his formal greeting. Despite Remus Lupin's reports and her own brief encounters with the boy over the years, McGonagall still found herself startled by Harry Potter's unusual maturity. He stood straight-backed in the morning light, thin but wiry, his emerald eyes carrying a depth that unsettled her. Happy birthday, she said, holding out the parchment envelope bearing the Hogwarts seal. Though I suspect this comes as no surprise. Harry accepted the letter with a genuine smile, breaking through his serious demeanor. For a moment, he looked like any excited 11-year-old. "Thank you. And no, not a surprise, but welcome all the same." As Harry broke the wax seal, Solaris materialized in a burst of flame, settling on his shoulder. McGonagall flinched slightly. Even after years of occasional encounters, the Phoenix's presence around a child remained disconcerting. "I see your companion remains with you," she observed. Harry glanced at Solaris affectionately. "Always." McGonagall nodded, then hesitated before continuing. "Mr. Potter, Professor Dumbledore asked me to inquire whether you've given any thought to how you wish to present yourself at Hogwarts." Harry looked up from the letter. "You mean whether I intend to hide Solaris and my abilities?" To put it bluntly, yes. Inside Harry's mind, both his companions offered their thoughts. "Secrecy provides tactical advantage," Nidhogg counseled. "The less they know of your true abilities, the less they can prepare against them." "Yet isolation serves no purpose," Solaris countered. "Some degree of openness may forge necessary alliances." Harry considered both perspectives before responding. "I won't hide Solaris completely, that would only fuel rumors when he's eventually discovered. But I'll be discreet with my more unusual abilities." McGonagall's lips thinned. "Mr. Potter, I feel obligated to warn you that your fame already guarantees significant attention. Adding a Phoenix companion will create quite a stir." "I understand, Professor. But pretending to be ordinary won't serve anyone in the long run." The professor studied him for a long moment, then nodded curtly. "Very well. Have you requirements for shopping in Diagon Alley? Most Muggle-raised students appreciate a guide their first time." Harry smiled faintly. "Thank you, but Remus has described it thoroughly. I believe I can manage." "As you wish." McGonagall turned to leave, then paused. "Mr. Potter, while I appreciate the remarkable maturity you've shown, I hope you'll allow yourself to experience Hogwarts as a child as well. Education extends beyond magical prowess." Harry's expression softened. "I'll try, Professor." After she disappeared with another crack, Harry returned his attention to the letter. The familiar words, the invitation, the supply list, the train information, filled him with unexpected warmth. Despite his unusual upbringing, this normal milestone still mattered. "We're going to Hogwarts," he whispered. Solaris trilled softly in response while Nidhogg emerged partially from Harry's shadow, his massive head forming in the darkness beneath a nearby oak. "The ancient castle calls to its own," the basilisk observed. "But remember, young master, it holds secrets even we may find surprising." Harry nodded, refolding the letter carefully. "I'm counting on it." Diagon Alley bustled with preterm shopping activity as Harry slipped through the brick entrance behind the leaky cauldron. He'd managed to avoid recognition in the pub by keeping his head down and his fringe carefully arranged over his scar. Solaris remained merged with Harry's magical core, invisible to others but present in his consciousness. Nidhogg, too, kept hidden, though Harry could feel the basilisk's awareness extending through his own senses, tasting the magical signatures around them. "Many eyes watch for you," Nidhogg warned as Harry navigated the crowded street. "The goblins have already noted your arrival." Harry nodded imperceptibly, unsurprised. His companions had explained that magical beings often perceived more than wizards realized. The goblins, with their ancient magic, would certainly recognize the unusual power signature of a wizard bonded to both Phoenix and Basilisk. Gringotts rose before him, white marble gleaming in the summer sun. Harry approached with measured steps, neither hurrying nor dawdling. As he reached the silver doors, the goblin guards stiffened almost imperceptibly, their dark eyes widening before narrowing in calculation. "Good morning," Harry greeted with a respectful nod. The guards returned the gesture with unusual depth. "The bank welcomes you, young one of dual nature," the left guard murmured in gobbledygook, likely assuming Harry wouldn't understand. Harry surprised him by responding in the same language, knowledge shared by Nidhogg who had existed since goblins first carved their tunnels beneath Britain. May your gold flow and your enemies fall beneath your blade. The goblins exchanged startled glances before the right one pulled the door open with renewed ceremony. Inside, Harry approached a free teller, conscious of the ripple of awareness spreading through the bank as more goblins noticed his presence. "I wish to access my vault," he stated simply, placing his small golden key on the counter. "Harry Potter." The teller examined the key, then examined Harry with equal scrutiny. "Your key appears in order, Mr. Potter. However, your unusual magical signature requires verification." He snapped his fingers, and a more elaborately dressed goblin appeared at his side. They exchanged rapid gobbledygook too complex for Harry to follow completely. The senior goblin turned to Harry with an expression that might have been respect. "Mr. Potter, I am Ragnarok. Would you follow me to a private chamber? There are matters regarding your inheritance that require attention." Unexpected, Solaris noted within Harry's mind. But potentially valuable. "Goblins value power and profit equally," Nidhogg added. "They sense our combined strength." Harry followed Ragnarok through marble hallways into a richly appointed office. Sword displays and gem-encrusted artifacts lined the walls, speaking to both wealth and martial prowess. "Please sit," Ragnarok gestured to a chair sized for humans. As Harry settled himself, the goblin studied him openly. "Mr. Potter, you present us with an unprecedented situation. Our records indicated a standard magical core when your parents established your trust vault. Today, you arrive with a tripartite magical signature." Harry kept his expression neutral. "I'm not sure I understand the concern." "No concern," Ragnarok corrected. "Merely a necessity for proper account management. Our magic recognizes you as three entities sharing one form, the wizard child, the firebird, and the death-gaze serpent." His eyes narrowed. "Such a combination has never been recorded in our histories." "He seeks information," Nidhogg warned. "Goblins hoard knowledge as preciously as gold." Harry nodded slightly. "My companions and I share a unique bond. Does this affect my access to my vault?" Ragnarok's lip curled in what might have been amusement. "Quite the opposite. It qualifies you for immediate access to your full inheritance rather than just your trust vault. Gringotts bylaws state that any witch or wizard demonstrating extraordinary magical maturation may claim their full inheritance before legal majority." Harry hadn't expected this. Remus had mentioned only the trust vault his parents had established for his schooling. "What does this full inheritance entail?" Ragnarok snapped his fingers, and a thick folder materialized on the desk. "The Potter family vault, containing heirlooms and artifacts beyond monetary wealth. Several properties. Investment portfolios." He eyed Harry speculatively. "And, of course, your status as heir to the House of Potter, with the political responsibilities therein." "I see." Harry considered this new information. "I'd like to visit both vaults today, if possible." "Of course." Ragnarok rose. "But first, a verification." He retrieved a shallow stone bowl etched with runes. "A drop of blood, if you please. Our standard procedure for inheritance claims." Harry hesitated only briefly before extending his hand. Ragnarok pricked his finger with a silver needle, allowing a single drop to fall into the bowl. The blood spread in complex patterns across the stone, forming intricate designs before glowing gold. "Confirmation complete," Ragnarok announced, looking satisfied. "Harry James Potter, heir to House Potter. Additionally." He paused, studying the patterns with surprise. "The magic recognizes aspects of eligibility for the most ancient and noble house of Peveril." "The Deathly Hallows connection," Solaris explained within Harry's mind. "Your ancestor created the invisibility cloak. And your dual bonding resonates with the Master of Death legend," Nidhogg added. Harry absorbed this silently while Ragnarok continued. "Both inheritance lines are now accessible to you, Mr. Potter. Shall we proceed to your vaults?" The cart ride through Gringotts depths proved enlightening. Nidhogg sensed the various magical protections, sharing this knowledge with Harry, dragon guards in the lower levels, curse wards around high-security vaults, detection charms that measured magical signatures. By the time they reached the Potter family vault, Harry understood why Gringotts remained unbreached for centuries. Inside the vault, wealth extended beyond mere gold. Ancient tomes lined one wall, grimoires and journals dating back generations. Magical artifacts rested on velvet-lined shelves, enchanted jewelry, ceremonial daggers, pensive memory vials. In one corner stood a collection of wands, presumably from Potter ancestors. "Take the journal with the phoenix feather bookmark," Solaris suggested, directing Harry's attention to a leather-bound tome. "Your father's research on advanced transfiguration." Harry collected this and several other items his companions identified as particularly valuable for his education. From the Peveril section, a small alcove separated by an archway, he retrieved a thin silver chain bearing a pendant that shifted between symbols for life and death. An ancient protection charm, Ragnarok explained when Harry questioned it. Legend claims it shields the wearer from magical detection. After gathering a generous amount of galleons from his trust vault, Harry concluded his Gringotts business. As Ragnarok escorted him back to the main hall, the goblin offered an observation. "Mr. Potter, Gringotts values unusual clients who bring unique opportunities. Should you require financial services beyond standard wizarding offerings, I would be available for consultation." Harry recognized the rare privilege being extended. "Thank you, Ragnarok. I suspect I may need such services in the future." With a final respectful bow, Harry departed Gringotts, feeling the weight of his newly discovered inheritance. The wizarding world had more layers than Remus had prepared him for, and his unusual status created both opportunities and complications. "The bank will keep your secrets for now," Nidhogg assured him. "Goblins value profitable relationships over wizard politics. But word will spread among magical creatures," Solaris cautioned. "Your unique nature cannot remain completely hidden." Harry nodded imperceptibly as he moved toward Ollivander's wand shop. While he could perform significant magic wandlessly, a wand would help him blend in at Hogwarts and provide additional focus for standard spellwork. The shop's interior felt ancient, dust motes dancing in the weak light filtering through grimy windows. Harry sensed the latent magic saturating the very walls, thousands of wands vibrating with potential, waiting for their perfect match. "I wondered when I would be seeing you, Mr. Potter." The soft voice came from behind him. Harry turned smoothly, having sensed Ollivander's approach through Nidhogg's expanded awareness. "Good afternoon, Mr. Ollivander," Harry replied. The wand maker paused, silver eyes widening slightly. "You knew I was there." A statement, not a question. His gaze intensified, studying Harry with unsettling focus. "Curious. Very curious." "What's curious, sir?" Harry asked, though he suspected the answer. "You are not as you should be, Mr. Potter." Ollivander circled him slowly. "I remember every wand I've ever sold. Your mother's was 10¼ inches, willow, excellent for charm work. Your father favored mahogany, 11 inches, pliable, outstanding for transfiguration. I expected their son to require something, complimentary." His head tilted. "Yet you stand before me with a magical core unlike any I've encountered." Harry remained calm under the scrutiny. "Does that mean you won't be able to match me with a wand?" "Quite the contrary." Ollivander's expression turned fascinated. "It means we face an unprecedented challenge." He disappeared among the shelves, muttering to himself. "He senses us," Solaris noted. "Wand makers develop special sensitivity to magical cores. Yet he does not fear what he perceives," Nidhogg added. "Merely finds it academically fascinating." Ollivander returned with an armful of boxes. "Let's begin with this. Ebony and dragon heartstring, 12 inches, quite rigid." Harry accepted the wand, immediately feeling its resistance to his dual-natured magic. Before he could wave it, Ollivander snatched it back. No, no, entirely wrong. He presented another. Apple and unicorn hair, 9 inches, springy. This process continued for nearly 30 minutes. With each rejected wand, Ollivander grew not frustrated but increasingly excited. Challenging customer. Wonderful. Finally, the wand maker paused, eyes distant in contemplation. I wonder. He disappeared into the depths of his shop, returning with a dusty box that seemed older than the others. An experimental creation. I combined 2 cores in this wand, a technique rarely successful. Phoenix feather and basilisk scale fragment, wrapped in a double helix around holly, 11 inches. Harry froze at the description, while his companion stirred within his consciousness. Remarkable coincidence, Solaris murmured. Or fate, Nidhogg countered. When did you make this wand? Harry asked carefully. Ollivander's eyes gleamed. Curious you should ask. It was the very night you received that scar, Mr. Potter. I awoke from a dream with the compulsion to create it, though I've never found a suitable match. He held out the box. Until now, perhaps. Harry reached for the wand with steady fingers. The moment his skin contacted the polished holly, power surged through him. Gold and green sparks erupted from the tip, swirling together in a perfect helix before dissolving into pure light that bathed the shop. The sensation was like finding a missing piece of himself, not necessary for his magic, but complementary to it. Extraordinary, Ollivander whispered. I think we must expect great things from you, Mr. Potter. After all, this wand has waited 11 years for your arrival, created on the very night that marked you. Harry paid the 7 galleons, sensing Ollivander had significantly undercharged for such a unique wand. As he turned to leave, the wand-maker's voice stopped him. Mr. Potter. The dual cores in your wand reflect what's within you, life and death in balance. Such power demands great responsibility. Harry met the ancient eyes steadily. I understand, Mr. Ollivander. More than you might expect. The remainder of Harry's shopping proceeded without incident. At Madame Malkin's, he ordered standard robes plus several in more durable fabrics for private practice. The bookshop yielded required texts plus advanced volumes on magical theory that caught his interest. At the magical menagerie, he lingered, drawn to a snowy owl whose intelligence shone in her amber eyes. A worthy messenger, Solaris approved. Owls carry old magic of communication. And she recognizes your unusual nature without fear, Nidhogg added as the owl bobbed her head at Harry. I'll take her, Harry told the shopkeeper, who seemed relieved to sell the bird that had apparently rejected multiple previous customers. By late afternoon, Harry had completed his shopping, shrinking his purchases with a wandless charm and stowing them in his pockets. As he prepared to leave Diagon Alley, a familiar face emerged from the apothecary. Harry. Remus Lupin called, smiling broadly. I thought I might find you here today. Harry returned the smile genuinely. Despite his unusual childhood, Remus had provided a necessary connection to normal wizarding life. Hello, Remus. Shopping for potion ingredients? Just browsing, Remus admitted, falling into step beside Harry. Truthfully, I wanted to see how your first real foray into the wizarding world went. Enlightening, Harry replied. I hadn't realized quite how much attention the boy who lived would generate. Remus nodded sympathetically. You've managed to avoid most of it today with your low profile, but Hogwarts will be different. Are you prepared for that? Harry considered the question seriously. As prepared as I can be. Though I suspect some aspects will still surprise me. They stopped at Fortescue's for ice cream, settling at an outdoor table where Remus cast a subtle privacy charm around them. As Harry described his Gringotts revelations, the werewolf listened with growing concern. I hadn't realized your dual bonding would register so clearly to the goblins, Remus admitted. This may complicate matters at school. If magical creatures can sense your unusual nature so readily. Then wizards might eventually perceive it too, Harry finished. I know. But hiding it completely isn't practical long-term. Remus studied his former student thoughtfully. You've grown into your abilities remarkably well, Harry. But Hogwarts presents new challenges, social as much as magical. Have you considered which house you might prefer? Harry had indeed considered this question extensively. Each has advantages. Gryffindor would be expected, given my parents. Ravenclaw would provide academic freedom for research. Hufflepuff offers loyalty and fewer expectations. Slytherin. He paused. Slytherin would help me understand aspects of magic others fear to explore. Remus's eyebrows rose. An unusually balanced assessment. Most students have a strong preference. Harry shrugged. Balance is essential to who I am now. As they finished their ice cream, Remus offered one last piece of advice. Whatever house you find yourself in, remember that Hogwarts can provide true friendship if you allow yourself to be not just Harry Potter, extraordinary wizard, but also just Harry, an 11-year-old boy experiencing magic's wonders for the first time. Harry nodded, touched by Remus's concern for his social development. I'll try. Though I suspect, just Harry stopped being an option the night Voldemort gave me this scar. Remus didn't argue the point. Instead, he squeezed Harry's shoulder affectionately. Write to me after the sorting. I'm curious where you'll end up. Of course, Harry promised. As they parted ways, Harry felt a curious mixture of anticipation and apprehension about the coming school year. For 7 years, his world had consisted primarily of the Dursleys' home, his forest sanctuary, and his immortal companions. Hogwarts would expand that world exponentially, bringing new allies, adversaries, and complications. The castle approaches, Nidhogg murmured within his mind. Ancient stones that have witnessed centuries of magic. It will recognize what we are, young master. And it will welcome us, Solaris added with certainty. For Hogwarts herself understands balance better than those who dwell within her walls. Platform 9 3/4 bustled with activity as Harry slipped through the barrier, trunk floating discreetly behind him with a featherlight charm. He'd arrived deliberately early to avoid the worst crowds, hoping to secure a compartment before the platform filled with families who might recognize the boy who lived. His snowy owl, whom he'd named Hedwig after a healer mentioned in one of his history books, hooted softly from her cage. Harry had explained his unusual companions to her, and the intelligent bird seemed to understand she would be sharing her master with 2 powerful magical beings. Many old families arrive early as well, Nidhogg observed as Harry navigated the platform. Noticed the Malfoy heir with his father by the train's end. Harry glanced discreetly toward a tall man with platinum blonde hair speaking sternly to a boy approximately Harry's age. The family's magical signature carried distinctive patterns that Nidhogg identified as dark-aligned but not corrupted. Potential allies or enemies depending on first impressions, the basilisk continued. Their family has historically valued power over ideology, despite public positions. Harry nodded imperceptibly, filing away this information as he boarded the train. He found an empty compartment near the middle and settled in, arranging his trunk in the overhead rack. Once seated, he removed one of his advanced magical theory books and began reading, allowing Hedwig out of her cage to perch on the seat beside him. The piece lasted approximately 20 minutes before his compartment door slid open. A girl with bushy brown hair and rather large front teeth peered in, already dressed in her Hogwarts robes. "Excuse me, have you seen a toad?" "A boy named Neville's lost one," she asked briskly. Harry marked his place in the book. "I haven't, but I could help find it if you'd like." The girl's eyes widened with interest as she noticed his book title. Advanced Magical Theory. That's not on the first-year reading list. She extended her hand formally. "I'm Hermione Granger." "Harry Potter," he replied, accepting the handshake. Hermione gasped. "Are you really? I know all about you, of course. You're in modern magical history and the rise and fall of the dark arts and great wizarding events of the 20th century. Eager. Knowledge-focused. Insecure beneath the confidence, Solaris assessed. But genuine, Nidhogg added. No deception in her manner. Harry smiled slightly. I doubt those books tell the full story. Most were written without consulting me, after all. Hermione blinked, processing this perspective she clearly hadn't considered. That's actually a very good point. History is written by observers, not always participants. She gestured to his book. Is that why you're reading advanced material? To understand magic beyond the textbooks? Something like that, Harry acknowledged, appreciating her quick adjustment. About that toad, I might be able to locate it more efficiently than searching compartment by compartment. Really? How? Harry didn't answer directly. Instead, he closed his eyes briefly, extending his awareness through the train. Solaris's life-sensing abilities helped him identify every living creature nearby, distinguishing species by their magical signatures. Third compartment from the front, under the left side bench, he said, opening his eyes. It's wedged behind a heating grate. Hermione stared at him. How could you possibly know that? Harry offered a small smile. Magic works in many ways beyond what's taught in classrooms. Would you like to come with me to retrieve it? Together they made their way forward, finding a round-faced, anxious-looking boy searching the corridor. Neville. Hermione called. This is Harry. He thinks he knows where your toad is. Neville Longbottom turned, hope and skepticism warring on his face. Really? How? Call it a hunch, Harry replied gently. Let's check the third compartment. Sure enough, Trevor was exactly where Harry had sensed him. As Neville gratefully reclaimed his pet, his eyes widened with recognition. You're Harry Potter, aren't you? Harry nodded, bracing for the usual reaction to his fame. Instead, Neville straightened his posture slightly. My grands told me about you. Our parents were friends, I think. This caught Harry by surprise. Remus had mentioned the Longbottoms, but not that they were close to his parents. I didn't know that. Would you like to join us in my compartment? You too, Hermione. As the train pulled away from the station, Harry found himself engaged in conversation with his first potential friends his own age. Hermione proved knowledgeable about magical theory despite her Muggle background, while Neville, once relaxed, displayed impressive understanding of magical plants and their properties. My specialty is herbology, Neville admitted shyly when Harry complimented his knowledge. Not very exciting compared to defense or charms. On the contrary, Harry countered. Plants are the foundation of healing magic, potions, and many protective wards. Some of the most powerful magic comes from understanding life cycles in nature. Neville's expression brightened at this perspective, while Hermione watched their interaction with keen interest. You have an unusual way of looking at magic, Harry, she observed. Was your family particularly focused on magical theory? Harry hesitated, unsure how much to reveal about his unusual education. Before he could decide, the compartment door slid open again, revealing the blond boy he'd noticed on the platform, flanked by two larger boys. They're saying Harry Potter is in this compartment, the boy announced, his gaze settling on Harry with calculation. Is it you, then? It is, Harry confirmed calmly. And you are? Malfoy. Draco Malfoy. The boy extended his hand. You'll find some wizarding families are better than others, Potter. I can help you there. Political maneuvering, Nidhogg assessed. Testing where you stand in the coming power structure. Yet not inherently malicious, Solaris added. Young and mimicking his father's approach. Harry considered the offered hand thoughtfully. Rejecting it outright would create an unnecessary enemy, but accepting without qualification might alienate Neville and Hermione. Balance, as always, was key. I appreciate the offer, Draco, Harry said, accepting the handshake briefly. Though I prefer to make my own assessments of people based on their actions rather than their family names. My compartment's a bit full now, but perhaps we can continue this conversation at school. Draco looked momentarily wrong-footed by the diplomatic response, neither acceptance nor rejection, before recovering his composure. Of course. We'll have 7 years to determine where our interests align. His gaze flicked dismissively over Neville and Hermione before he withdrew with his companions. That was well handled, Hermione said once they'd gone. His father is Lucius Malfoy, isn't he? I read he was accused of supporting you-know-who but claimed to be under the Imperius curse. Harry nodded. The wizarding world isn't divided neatly into good people and Death Eaters. There are complex political and magical philosophies at play. Neville's eyes widened at Harry's mature perspective. Gran always says the same thing, but most kids our age just follow their parents' views. I've had an unusual upbringing, Harry admitted. Before they could question this statement, the compartment door opened once more. This time, it revealed an older student with red hair and a prefect badge. Just checking if you first-years need anything, he said officiously. I'm Percy Weasley, Gryffindor prefect. We're fine, thank you, Harry replied politely. Percy nodded, then did a double-take as he noticed Harry's scar. Potter? Harry Potter. Yes, Harry confirmed, growing slightly weary of the recognition. Percy straightened even further. Well, if you need any assistance navigating Hogwarts, you can always ask me. Particularly if you end up in Gryffindor, like your parents. Best house, really. After Percy left, Hermione turned to Harry eagerly. Do you know which house you'll be in? I've been reading about them, and Gryffindor sounds by far the best. Dumbledore himself was in it. But Ravenclaw wouldn't be too bad, I suppose. Harry shrugged. Each house has its merits. The Sorting Hat will decide based on our core qualities. My whole family's been in Gryffindor, Neville said nervously. I'm afraid I'll end up somewhere else and disappoint Gran. Any house would be lucky to have you, Neville, Harry said kindly. Your loyalty would make Hufflepuff proud, your plant knowledge would benefit Ravenclaw, and it takes courage to persevere when you're unsure of yourself, a very Gryffindor quality. Neville blushed at the assessment but sat a little straighter. As the journey continued, Harry found himself enjoying the simple pleasure of conversation with peers. Though his connection to Solaris and Nidhogg had provided wisdom beyond his years, something about these normal interactions fulfilled a different need, the need for human connection his extraordinary powers couldn't satisfy. When the train finally slowed as they approached Hogsmeade Station, Harry felt a curious sensation through his bond with Nidhogg. The basilisk's consciousness stirred with recognition, as if sensing something familiar. Beneath the castle, Nidhogg whispered in Harry's mind. One of my kind sleeps in ancient chambers. Dormant but aware. Waiting. Harry tensed imperceptibly. Salazar's basilisk. The Chamber of Secrets is real. Very real, Nidhogg confirmed. And its guardian will sense me as I sense it. Our arrival will not go unnoticed in the depths. This revelation added complexity to Harry's already complicated arrival at Hogwarts. Not only would he need to navigate social dynamics and conceal the full extent of his abilities, but now he needed to consider the implications of Nidhogg's connection to another basilisk hidden within the school. We will investigate when the time is right, Harry decided as the train came to a complete stop. First, we establish our place here. Wise, young master, his companions agreed. Leaving the train, Harry followed Hagrid's booming call for first years. The half-giant did a double-take when he spotted Harry, his beetle-black eyes crinkling with emotion. Harry. Last time I saw ya, you was just a baby. Ya look like your dad, but with your mum's eyes. Harry smiled genuinely at the groundskeeper. It's nice to meet you properly, Hagrid. Remus has told me about you. Remus? Lupin? Hagrid looked surprised. Didn't know ya knew him already. He's been teaching me about the wizarding world, Harry explained, aware of curious ears listening nearby. Hagrid nodded thoughtfully before ushering the first years toward the boats. As they rounded a bend in the path, Hogwarts came into view for the first time, its countless windows glittering with light against the night sky. Harry felt both Solaris and Nidhogg stir within him at the sight. The castle's ancient magic called to them, layers of protection, knowledge, and power accumulated over a millennium. But more than that, Harry himself felt a profound sense of homecoming. After years of preparation, he had arrived where he belonged. As their boat glided across the Black Lake, Hermione whispered excitedly about the castle's architectural features and magical protections she'd read about in Hogwarts, a history. Neville gazed up at the towering structure with awe and trepidation. Harry, however, was distracted by a new sensation. "The castle recognizes us," Solaris communicated. "It's adjusting its magic to accommodate our presence." Harry felt it too, a subtle realignment in the ancient wards, like locks reconfiguring to accept a new key. Hogwarts itself was responding to the unprecedented combination of wizard, phoenix, and basilisk entering its domain. When they reached the underground harbor, Hagrid led them up stone steps to an enormous oak door, which opened to reveal Professor McGonagall waiting to greet them. "The Fur's years, Professor McGonagall," Hagrid announced. "Thank you, Hagrid. I will take them from here." McGonagall led them across the flagged stone floor, her emerald robe swishing with each precise step. Harry noticed her gaze lingering on him momentarily, assessing. She guided them into a small antechamber off the Great Hall and delivered a crisp speech about the 4 houses and the upcoming sorting ceremony. As excited whispers broke out about how exactly they would be sorted, Harry remained calm. Remus had explained the sorting hat years ago, though he'd been deliberately vague about its methods, wanting Harry to experience some aspects of Hogwarts with the same wonder as his classmates. When McGonagall departed momentarily, several ghosts drifted through the wall, startling many first years. Harry watched with interest as the pearlescent figures debated Peeves the Poltergeist before noticing the new students. The ghost in ruffs introduced as nearly headless Nick paused mid-greeting when his gaze fell on Harry. "Extraordinary," the ghost murmured, drifting closer. "Young sir, your aura." Before Nick could continue, McGonagall returned, shooing the ghosts away and organizing the first years into a line. Harry noted the ghost's reaction with concern, another magical entity that could perceive his unusual nature. The Great Hall exceeded even Remus's descriptions. Thousands of candles floated above 4 long tables where students sat beneath banners of their houses. At the front, the high table accommodated the staff, with Albus Dumbledore at its center, his silver beard gleaming in the candlelight. Above it all, the enchanted ceiling displayed a perfect replica of the night sky. Harry felt hundreds of eyes upon him as the first years proceeded up the center aisle. Some stared at all the new students, but many seemed to be searching specifically for him, the famous Harry Potter. He maintained his composure, though he felt Solaris's warmth increase slightly in response to his discomfort. McGonagall placed a 4-legged stool before them, topped with a patched, frayed wizard's hat. After the hat sang its song describing the 4 houses, the sorting began alphabetically. Harry watched with interest as his new acquaintances were sorted. Hermione went to Gryffindor after nearly a minute under the hat. Neville, too, joined Gryffindor after what appeared to be significant deliberation. Draco Malfoy was immediately placed in Slytherin, as he had clearly expected. When McGonagall called Potter, Harry, the hall fell silent, then erupted in whispers. Harry walked forward with measured steps, feeling the weight of expectation as he sat on the stool. The last thing he saw before the hat dropped over his eyes was the great hall full of people craning for a better look at him. "Well, well, well," said a small voice in his ear. "What have we here? Oh my! Oh my!" The hat's surprise was palpable even in its whispered voice. "In 1,000 years of sorting, I have never encountered anything like you, Mr. Potter. A triple essence where there should be one. The boy wizard, the phoenix of light, and, is that truly a basilisk? Extraordinary. Salazar himself would be fascinated. It perceives us fully," Nidhogg noted with interest. "As it must, to sort us properly," Solaris added. Indeed I do perceive you all, the hat responded to the internal dialogue. And what a challenge you present. The bravery of Gryffindor, certainly. The intellect for Ravenclaw, without doubt. Loyalty and hard work for Hufflepuff. And such ambition and resourcefulness for Slytherin. The hat fell silent for a moment, seemingly contemplating. Your phoenix aspect pulls toward Gryffindor, while your basilisk nature leans toward Slytherin. The boy himself straddles all four houses equally. How am I to choose? Harry considered carefully before responding mentally. Where would I grow most effectively? Where would balance be best maintained? A mature question, the hat approved. You seek not where you be most comfortable, but where you develop most completely. In that case. Harry waited, aware that his sorting was taking significantly longer than others. I believe you would benefit most from Slytherin, the hat shouted the last word to the hall. The silence that greeted this announcement was profound. For a moment, not a single person in the great hall made a sound. Then, the Slytherin table began to applaud, first tentatively, then with growing enthusiasm. As Harry removed the hat and handed it back to a clearly surprised McGonagall, he noted the varied reactions across the hall. The Gryffindors looked stunned or disappointed. The Hufflepuffs and Ravenclaws seemed confused. At the high table, Dumbledore's expression remained serene, though his eyes had lost their usual twinkle. Beside him, a hook-nosed professor with greasy black hair, Snape, Harry presumed, looked utterly thunderstruck. Harry walked calmly to the Slytherin table, where Draco Malfoy had eagerly made space beside him. As Harry sat, he caught Hermione's eye across the hall. She offered a small, uncertain smile, which he returned gratefully. I knew you'd recognize the right sort, Draco said confidently, though Harry detected genuine relief in his tone. Father will be pleased. The hat makes its own decisions, Harry replied diplomatically. Each house has valuable qualities to offer. A ghost covered in silver bloodstains, the Bloody Baron, drifted near, studying Harry with unnervingly intense eyes. The hat chose correctly, the Baron stated in a hollow voice. You carry ancient magic, boy. Salazar would approve. This pronouncement caused nearby students to eye Harry with renewed interest. Further conversation was prevented by the continuation of the sorting, which concluded with Zabini, Blaise, joining Slytherin. Dumbledore rose to deliver his welcome speech, which consisted primarily of apparently nonsensical words before he clapped his hands and filled their plates with food. As students began eating enthusiastically, Harry felt the weight of observation from multiple directions. Potter, a tall, dark-skinned boy addressed him from across the table. Adrian Pusey, 3rd year. Everyone expected you'd go to Gryffindor like your parents. Care to explain the surprise? Several nearby Slytherins leaned in, equally curious about the answer. Harry met Pusey's gaze steadily. The hat considers our full potential, not just our heritage. It felt I would develop best here. Develop what, exactly? A girl with an upturned nose asked skeptically. Before Harry could answer, a cold voice interrupted from behind him. Perhaps Mr. Potter believes his celebrity status entitles him to special consideration in all matters. Harry turned to find Professor Snape standing there, dark eyes glittering with barely contained emotion. Up close, the man's magical signature revealed deep complexity, profound grief, bitterness, and regret layered beneath a carefully constructed shell of indifference. Not at all, Professor, Harry responded respectfully. I believe each person should be judged on their own merits rather than preconceptions. Snape's eyes narrowed fractionally. We shall see if your performance matches your philosophical outlook, Mr. Potter. I expect exemplary behavior from members of my house. Of course, sir, Harry replied evenly. Snape lingered a moment longer, his expression unreadable, before continuing down the table to address another student. Harry turned back to find his housemates watching the interaction with interest. Snape never gives special treatment, even to Slytherins, an older girl with a prefect badge explained. I'm Gemma Farley. Welcome to Slytherin, Potter. You've certainly made things interesting already. The feast continued with Harry fielding careful questions from his new housemates. He revealed selected details about his upbringing, living with Muggle relatives but receiving magical education from a tutor, while avoiding specifics about his true abilities. By dessert, he'd established himself as neither arrogant nor naive, earning cautious acceptance if not yet trust. Throughout the meal, Harry remained aware of Nidhogg's continued sense of connection to the other basilisk far below. The creature stirred restlessly in its slumber, sensing a kindred presence but unable to locate it precisely. It will eventually pinpoint our location, Nidhogg warned. When it does, it may attempt communication. Can it be dangerous to the students? Harry asked mentally. Only if commanded to be so by one it recognizes as heir to Slytherin, Nidhogg explained. It is bound by ancient magic to obey the bloodline. This information troubled Harry. If Salazar's monster could indeed be controlled by an heir, that presented potential danger should such an heir exist and harbor ill intentions. After the feast concluded and Dumbledore delivered announcements, including a curious warning about the third-floor corridor, Prefect Farley led the Slytherin first-years down to the dungeons. The common room entrance was concealed behind a stone wall, accessible only by password, aspiration, for this term. The Slytherin common room impressed even Harry, who had seen magical spaces before. Long, low-ceilinged, and dungeon-like, it featured greenish light from lamps and a large window that looked out into the depths of the lake. Elegant leather sofas and carved chairs clustered around a grand fireplace adorned with intricate serpentine designs. Girls' dormitories to the left, boys to the right, Farley explained. First years get the rooms closest to the common room. Breakfast begins at 7:30, and Professor Snape will distribute schedules tomorrow morning. As the first years dispersed to their dormitories, Harry found himself sharing a room with Draco Malfoy, Blaise Zabini, Theodore Nott, and Vincent Crabbe. 5 four-poster beds with silver and green hangings were arranged around a central heating brazier, their trunks already placed at the foot of each. Harry claimed the bed nearest the window overlooking the lake, feeling more comfortable with water between him and potential intrusion. As he began unpacking essentials, he noticed Draco watching him with undisguised curiosity. "So, Potter," Draco began, affecting casual interest, "who was this tutor that prepared you for Hogwarts? Anyone my father would know?" Harry considered his response carefully. "Remus Lupin. He was friends with my father at school." Theodore Nott's head snapped up. "Lupin? Isn't he a werewolf?" Harry stilled, surprised by Nott's knowledge. "How did you know that?" Nott shrugged. "My father keeps records on potentially dangerous half-breeds. Part of his ministry work." "Professor Lupin is an excellent teacher," Harry replied evenly. "His condition doesn't define him." An awkward silence followed this statement, broken only when Blaise Zabini chuckled softly. "First night, and Potter's already challenging pure-blood dogma. This should be an interesting 7 years." Draco frowned, clearly uncertain how to respond. His upbringing likely included strong prejudice against werewolves, but directly antagonizing Harry Potter on their first night seemed strategically unwise. "Well," he said finally, "I suppose results matter more than methods. What sort of magic did he teach you?" "Theory, primarily," Harry replied, deliberately vague. "And wizarding culture, history, that sort of thing." As the boys prepared for bed, conversation drifted to more neutral topics: Quidditch teams, expectations for classes, and speculation about their fellow first-years. Harry participated enough to seem sociable while revealing little of substance. When the dormitory finally quieted, Harry drew his bed curtains and cast a subtle privacy charm, one of the first Remus had taught him, anticipating Harry might need solitude at Hogwarts. With the charm in place, he could finally commune openly with his companions. Solaris materialized in miniature form, perching on Harry's pillow while Nidhogg emerged from shadow to coil at the foot of the bed. Both creatures had reduced their size to accommodate the limited space. "What do you think?" Harry whispered, though the charm ensured they wouldn't be overheard. Slytherin offers both opportunity and challenge, Solaris assessed. Your housemates value power and self-preservation, which grants you freedom to develop without excessive scrutiny, provided you demonstrate strength. Yet their political alignments may create complications when Voldemort eventually returns, Nidhogg added. Many have parents connected to his previous rise. Harry nodded thoughtfully. And Dumbledore's reaction? He seemed accepting. The Old One plays multiple games simultaneously, Nidhogg observed. Your sorting changes his strategies but not his ultimate goals for you. He will watch more carefully now, Solaris warned. Especially through Snape, who clearly harbors complex feelings about your presence in his house. I noticed, Harry murmured. There's history there beyond simple dislike. Something personal connected to my parents. Indeed. His magical signature reveals deep wounds, Solaris confirmed. Approach with caution but without hostility. Harry leaned back against his pillows, processing his first day in the wizarding world. And the basilisk below? What should we do about that? We must investigate, but cautiously, Nidhogg replied. Its presence has remained secret for centuries for a reason. If Salazar's chamber truly exists, it may contain knowledge beyond what the school currently teaches. Yet awakening the Guardian could create danger if mishandled, Solaris cautioned. Balance, as always, must guide our actions. Harry nodded, determination settling within him. Tomorrow we begin classes and establish our public persona. We'll explore the chamber once we understand the castle's rhythms better. As his companions merged back into his magical core, Harry extinguished the light and gazed out the underwater window beside his bed. Green-tinted moonlight filtered through the lake's depths, casting ethereal patterns across the dormitory floor. His first night at Hogwarts had already upended expectations, both his own and others. The boy who lived, sorted into Slytherin. The child of Gryffindor heroes, now sleeping in the dungeons. A wizard bonded to both Phoenix and Basilisk, walking undetected among children whose greatest magical achievement was making a feather float. Harry smiled slightly in the darkness. 7 years stretched before him, years to learn, grow, and prepare for the inevitable confrontation with Voldemort that prophecy demanded. But for tonight, he allowed himself to simply appreciate having reached this milestone. Hogwarts had welcomed him home, regardless of which house banner hung above his bed. Harry's first week at Hogwarts established several patterns. In class, he deliberately performed at an advanced but not extraordinary level, mastering spells quickly but not instantaneously, answering questions correctly but not exhaustively. This measured approach minimized unwanted attention while still earning house points and respect from professors. His housemates observed him with calculated interest, particularly after Professor Flitwick squeaked in excitement when reading Harry's name during their first charms class, and Professor McGonagall gave him a rare nod of approval when he transfigured his match into a needle on his first attempt. Even Snape, who had approached their first potions class with obvious bias, found little to criticize in Harry's careful brewing technique. It appears fame isn't everything, the potions master had remarked snidely when Harry produced a perfect boil-cure potion. Though perhaps you inherited your mother's aptitude rather than your father's, enthusiasm for shortcuts. The ambiguous reference to his parents caught Harry's attention, confirming his suspicion that Snape's attitude stemmed from personal history rather than mere prejudice against the boy who lived. Socially, Harry maintained careful balance, friendly with fellow Slytherins without embracing their more problematic views, respectful to students from other houses without seeking close connections that might alienate his housemates. The exception was Hermione Granger, whom Harry deliberately partnered with during their shared potions class, ignoring Draco's raised eyebrow. House rivalries shouldn't interfere with academics, Harry had explained simply when questioned later. Granger is intelligent and precise with ingredients. It was a practical choice. This pragmatic explanation satisfied most Slytherins, who valued results over tradition when properly framed. By week's end, Harry had established himself as neither a blood purist nor a Gryffindor sympathizer, but rather a Slytherin who made strategic choices based on his own judgment, a position that earned reluctant respect. Throughout this careful social navigation, Harry remained aware of Nidhogg's growing connection to the basilisk beneath the school. The ancient creature's consciousness stirred more frequently now, sensing kindred magic but confused by its inability to locate the source. Harry knew they would need to address this situation soon, before the basilisk became agitated enough to seek them out more actively. On Friday evening, Harry took advantage of free time before curfew to explore the castle alone. His enhanced senses, combined with Nidhogg's innate understanding of serpentine magic, helped him identify the residual traces of Parseltongue enchantments throughout the lower levels. Salazar left many hidden pathways, Nidhogg observed as Harry paused before an unremarkable stone wall that radiated subtle magical signatures. This one leads toward the chamber, though not directly to it. Harry glanced around to ensure he was unobserved before placing his palm against the cool stone. Open, he whispered in Parseltongue, a language Nidhogg had taught him years ago. The wall shimmered and revealed a narrow passage that hadn't been visible moments before. Harry slipped inside, allowing the entrance to seal behind him. Lighting his wand with a silent lumos, he proceeded cautiously down the sloping corridor. "We are beneath the main dungeons now," Solaris noted as they descended. "Few have walked these passages in centuries." The air grew damper as Harry continued, the walls occasionally adorned with serpentine carvings that seemed to watch his progress. Finally, the passage opened into a small circular chamber featuring a central pillar carved with intertwining snakes. Not the chamber itself, Nidhogg clarified, but an antechamber. One of several access points Salazar created. Harry approached the pillar, studying the intricate carvings. When he placed his hand on the central snake's head, he felt a pulse of magic in response. "I seek the Chamber of Secrets," Harry hissed in Parseltongue. The stone serpents began to move, slithering around the pillar until they formed a new pattern pointing toward a previously blank wall, which now revealed another passage. Harry proceeded through this new opening, descending deeper beneath the castle. The passage eventually terminated at a solid wall carved with two entwined serpents with emerald eyes. "Open," Harry commanded again in Parseltongue. The serpents parted as the wall cracked open, revealing the legendary Chamber of Secrets beyond. Harry stepped through cautiously, wand raised to illuminate the vast space. The chamber extended before him like a cathedral, high stone pillars entwined with carved serpents rose to support a ceiling lost in darkness. Greenish light from unknown sources cast eerie shadows across the smooth stone floor. At the far end stood a monumental statue of Salazar Slytherin, his ancient, monkey-like face gazing sternly across the chamber. "The Guardian sleeps within the statue," Nidhogg informed Harry. "It senses us now, more clearly than before." Harry approached the statue slowly, feeling the stirring of the ancient basilisk within. As he reached the stone feet, he considered his next move carefully. "We must establish dominance immediately," Nidhogg advised. "The creature has been dormant for centuries, awaiting commands from one it recognizes as master. Yet we must also offer respect," Solaris added. "It is not an enemy but a potential ally, if approached correctly." Harry nodded, coming to a decision. "Greatest of Hogwarts 4, reveal your guardian that I may speak with it," he called in Parseltongue, directing his words to the statue. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a grinding of stone, the statue's mouth began to open. Harry closed his eyes immediately, aware of the basilisk's lethal gaze. "Allow me to shield you," Solaris offered, channeling Phoenix magic to protect Harry's vision. "With my essence merged with yours, you can look upon it safely." Harry felt warmth spread through his optic nerves as Solaris's magic modified his sight. When he opened his eyes, he could perceive the massive serpent emerging from Slytherin's stone mouth, but its deadly gaze was filtered through a golden haze that neutralized its effect. The basilisk was enormous, at least 60 feet long, with poisonous green scales and a crown-like crest. Its yellow eyes fixed on Harry with ancient intelligence as it slithered down to the chamber floor. "Who awakens me?" the basilisk demanded in Parseltongue, its voice a dry, rasping sound that echoed through the chamber. "You carry the scent of my kind, yet you are human. What trickery is this?" Harry stood his ground, meeting the creature's gaze steadily. "I am Harry Potter, bonded with Nidhogg, ancient basilisk of the northern woods. I come with respect to the guardian of Slytherin's chamber." The basilisk reared back in surprise. "Bonded? Impossible. No human has ever bonded with one of my kind." "Show it," Nidhogg suggested. Harry nodded, allowing Nidhogg to partially manifest, not physically separating from Harry, but rather extending his magical essence visibly. A spectral basilisk head formed beside Harry's, smaller than the chamber guardian but unmistakably the same species. "Greetings, cousin," Nidhogg hissed. "I have joined with this young wizard in unprecedented bond. He is worthy of your respect." The chamber basilisk lowered its massive head, studying the phenomenon with obvious astonishment. Two souls in one form. And it paused, sensing further. A third presence. Something of light and fire. Solaris manifested partially as well, a ghostly phoenix shape materializing on Harry's opposite side. The basilisk recoiled slightly at the sight. "Light and dark, creation and destruction, in perfect balance," Harry explained. "I am neither heir of Slytherin by blood nor enemy of his legacy. I seek knowledge and understanding of this chamber and its purpose." The basilisk considered this extraordinary situation, its ancient mind processing implications beyond normal wizarding comprehension. Finally, it lowered its body to the chamber floor in a gesture of acceptance. "I am Sathorath, created by Salazar Slytherin to protect the school from those who would destroy magical learning. For centuries I have slept, awakening only when called by those of his blood or magic. You are neither, yet both, a paradox I cannot ignore." Harry bowed respectfully. "What is your true purpose here, Sathorath?" "The legends speak only of a monster set to purge the school of those Slytherin deemed unworthy." The basilisk made a sound like dry laughter. "Legends simplify. Salazar opposed admitting those born to non-magical families not from hatred, but fear of persecution in an age when witches burned. This chamber was created as sanctuary and last defense should the castle fall to those who would destroy all magical kind. Not as a weapon against students." Harry pressed. "I was meant to protect magical learning itself," Sathorath responded. "Though heirs who followed twisted Salazar's intent. The last who came spoke of purging impure blood, a corruption of my creator's purpose. The last heir was Voldemort," Solaris realized. "Tom Riddle, when he opened the chamber 50 years ago." Harry nodded, pieces connecting. "Sathorath, when did you last awaken before today?" 5 decades past. A boy who carried Slytherin's blood commanded me to hunt. One died before I recognized the perversion of my purpose and returned to slumber, resisting further calls." This revelation surprised Harry. The basilisk had resisted Riddle's commands after the first death, moaning Myrtle, presumably, suggesting a level of autonomy beyond a simple monster. "And now?" Harry asked. "What do you wish after centuries of isolation?" Sathorath's massive head tilted thoughtfully. "You offer me choice, young speaker with 2 souls. Interesting. I have guarded secrets long forgotten by wizard kind. Perhaps it is time some were remembered." The basilisk slithered toward the far wall of the chamber, indicating Harry should follow. Behind Slytherin's statue, concealed in shadow, stood an archway Harry hadn't noticed before. At Sathorath's hissed command, the arch illuminated, revealing a hidden library beyond. Salazar's true legacy, Sathorath explained. Knowledge he feared would be destroyed by those who misunderstood it. Magic of all kinds, light and dark, creation and protection. Like you, he sought balance, though history remembers only his caution against the non-magical. Harry stepped through the arch in amazement. Shelves lined the walls, filled with ancient tomes and scrolls preserved by powerful magic. At the center stood a pedestal holding a journal bound in basilisk hide. His personal grimoire, Sathorath indicated. For one who balances opposing forces as you do, it may prove valuable. Harry approached the pedestal reverently. "May I?" "You have earned the right by your nature," the basilisk confirmed. "Though many of these works should remain here, protected from those who would misuse them." Harry nodded in agreement. "I'll study here rather than removing them. This place should remain secret for now." "A wise decision," Solaris approved. "Some knowledge requires maturity to wield properly. And secrecy serves our purposes," Nidhogg added pragmatically. "A sanctuary unknown to others provides strategic advantage." Harry spent the next hour examining Slytherin's journal, finding it written in a mixture of ancient languages and Parseltongue script. With Nidhogg's assistance, he could decipher portions describing magical theory far beyond current wizarding understanding, concepts that bridged light and dark magic in ways modern practitioners would find revolutionary or heretical. "I'll need time to study this properly," Harry finally said, carefully returning the journal to its pedestal. "Sathorath, would you permit me to visit regularly to learn from these works?" The basilisk inclined its massive head. "You are welcome, balanced one. Your presence ends centuries of isolation, and your unusual nature intrigues me. Perhaps in exchange for access to this knowledge, you might occasionally bring news of the world above. Much has changed since I last regularly interacted with wizardkind." Harry smiled at the unexpectedly reasonable request. "I'd be happy to. And perhaps you could share your memories of Hogwarts' early days. Historical accounts are often incomplete." Thus began an unlikely partnership between boy and basilisk. Harry promised to return soon and bid Sathorath farewell, making his way back through the hidden passages toward the Slytherin dormitory. His mind raced with implications of what he'd discovered, not just the historical revelations about Salazar Slytherin's true intentions, but the magical knowledge preserved in that hidden library. As he emerged from the secret passage near the dungeons, a voice startled him. "Out for an evening stroll, Potter?" Harry turned to find Professor Snape watching him with narrowed eyes, arms folded across his chest. "Just exploring the castle, Professor," Harry replied calmly, though internally he verified his magical signature was properly masked and no traces of the chamber lingered on him. "Exploring," Snape repeated skeptically. 5 points from Slytherin for wandering into restricted areas. The lower dungeons are off-limits to students for good reason. Harry accepted the punishment without protest, noting that Snape had taken minimal points despite his obvious suspicion. "It won't happen again, sir. See that it doesn't." Snape studied him intently. "Your curiosity seems remarkably similar to another trait I recall all too well." The oblique reference to Harry's father hung between them, another piece of the puzzle regarding Snape's complicated feelings. "I'm still learning where boundaries lie, Professor," Harry offered diplomatically. "I appreciate the guidance." Something flickered across Snape's face, surprise at the lack of defiance, perhaps. "Return to the common room. Curfew approaches." As Harry walked away, he felt Snape's gaze following him, calculating and reassessing. The potion's master clearly sensed something unusual about Harry but couldn't identify precisely what. This tenuous dynamic would require careful management throughout the school year. Back in the Slytherin common room, Harry found most of his housemates engaged in typical Friday evening activities, homework, wizard chess, and social maneuvering disguised as casual conversation. Draco Malfoy waved him over to a group of first-years gathered near the fireplace. "Potter. We were just discussing flying lessons next week," Draco announced. "Have you much experience on a broom?" Harry joined them, deliberately adopting a more relaxed demeanor than he displayed in his confrontation with Sathorath minutes earlier. The contrast between his secret activities and these mundane social interactions struck him as almost comical. "I've had limited opportunities," Harry replied truthfully. "My Muggle neighborhood didn't exactly accommodate magical transportation." Draco looked horrified at the thought of growing up without Quidditch. "That's practically criminal. Father says I was flying before I could walk properly." "You'll need to give Potter some pointers then," Blaise Zabini suggested with a sly smile. Can't have a Slytherin embarrassing the house during flying lessons, especially with the Gryffindors watching. The conversation devolved into Quidditch talk and house rivalry, normal concerns of 11-year-olds that seemed almost trivial after communing with a 1,000-year-old basilisk. Yet Harry participated willingly, recognizing the importance of these social bonds. Balance required him to be both the extraordinary master of life and death and an ordinary first-year student forming friendships. Later that night, as his dorm mates slept, Harry reflected on his extraordinary first week at Hogwarts. He had established his public identity as a talented but not suspicious student, found an unexpected ally in Sathorath, and discovered a treasure trove of forgotten magical knowledge. Classes had proven manageable, his housemates were gradually accepting him, and his plans for navigating the complexities of Hogwarts were proceeding smoothly. Yet challenges loomed on the horizon. Professor Quirrell, with his suspicious